I'm your host, Elizabeth, and this is For the Talkers. Hello, talkers. Happy Thursday. I'm your host, Elizabeth, and I am so excited you decided to join me today. In case you didn't know and you're listening to this episode, I have started doing video shows. So if you're listening in Spotify, you can just watch it right in Spotify, which is so nice. I podcasts that I listen to that have that because I can go back and forth between watching and listening. So it's really nice. And then I also have a YouTube just for the talkers that I'm uploading there as well. So if you're listening and love it, don't change a thing. I love you. Thank you. But I know a lot of people do like a video a little more. So that is an option as well now. And I'm getting the courage to do even my intros as videos. So hello. And I am just so excited you guys are here. Today is Monday and I'm feeling good. It's a good Monday and I'm just happy to be here. And my cat is coming to say hi, possibly. So I didn't say this is my happy, so I just have to tell you all a little story really quick. Me and Grace went out to get pedicures with her mom and granny and sister, and you guys, I don't know about you, but I feel like a lot of the time when you go to get pedicures, you're with a group, and there's always one. There's always one person who does the pedicure just a little bit better. And I got that person this time. I was so like, I didn't get done till probably 15, 20 minutes after everyone else because he was taking his time with the massage. I mean, there's not a single ounce of cuticle left on my foot. I just can't. It was just a beautiful, amazing, amazing pedicure. I am the type of person to get a pedicure like roughly every 6 to 9 months. It feels like a huge event every time that it happens. So just had to let you all know. And they were playing just like clips of The Voice. So not even like full reruns of the show, just like YouTube. Like they just YouTube 2014 The Voice. It was so random and like it was it. That was the vibes when I am a nail tech and I have a little salon. That's what I'm going to play. I'm going to play The Voice and America's Got Talent because how underrated. I was locked in watching those. So there's my long intro. I just had to tell you all that. But today we are talking with Miss Traci. And me and Traci have been trying to record an episode for months now. And so I'm just so glad that our schedules were finally able to align because she is so kind, so thoughtful, and this was such a fun episode. When I have episodes like this with Traci, I am like, this is for the talkers, right? We are here to connect, to share stories, and to really just learn more about other people. Traci was so vulnerable, so kind in sharing her experiences and her tips and her expertise. And we talked a lot about, just how to be a safe person. Some of you had sent some questions in and we talked about kind of mental health overall. And we were able to answer some of your guys' questions on how do we change negative thought patterns and, how do we have, better days when days don't start out right or whatever. It was really an inspiring episode. I feel like that is a good word to really summarize everything. So I hope you all enjoy. I sure did. Please follow Traci along with her and her journey and everything that she shares. She has a super fun TikTok and website that you can check out also. So those will be linked in the show notes. But let me tell you a little bit more about Traci. Traci is a born and raised Kansas gal who dreams of moving somewhere cold and rainy. She has an associate's degree in music education, a bachelor's in French, and recently obtained a global MBA with a green belt in Six Sigma. After being hospitalized for intense SI, she's adopted new mindsets and became a life coach and speaker to help others gain a better relationship with emotions and to be an example of what's possible. She loves tattoos, video games, and sugary cereal. Traci loves getting to connect deeply with others, and that's totally what we did today. We just connected. I know that you guys will be able to feel that and feel her really kind, loving energy. So here is Traci. Okay, hello, Tracy.
Hello, hello, hello.
I was gonna say too, I love your purple glasses.
Thank you so much. I was a little nervous after I got them because I thought they're a little too big for my face, but I know the bigger frames are in. And when I
Yeah,
saw that they were purple and they were this, I was hoping they would fit, and they did.
well, that's funny. I've always had big glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See, and I used to get made fun of in school, like elementary days, of like, so big glasses or your bifocals, and then to see them come back around, I'm like, oh, that would have been cool if
yeah.
they were in, they were
Wish I
in
could have
during my
had
time.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. No, they're super in. I love them. They frame your face very well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, well, do you want to start with your happy, funny, sad moments?
Sure. So my happy moment is I have made a friend on Tumblr, and I found that it's just really hard to make friends, as weird as that sounds, because now knowing I'm autistic and this and that, I found it really awkward to just, because I'll go from 0 to 100 like real quick. I want to know all about the person. I want to know about your life, where you came from, all the things, and not everybody wants to do that. And so
Sure.
finding the way to like click with somebody, and when it does, it's just like, oh, it's beautiful. And that she's neurodivergent too, I think that helps because we're both kind of on that same wavelength or whatever. So I mean, it's hard work finding a new friend, and
It
we've
is.
been just enjoying and vibing together, so that's been a really
Good.
happy moment.
Yeah, that's way happy. Being an
Yeah.
adult, people don't prepare you. Like, you're not in school, you're not in
Yes.
places with other people around your
Hmm.
age. So it's hard. So
Yeah.
that's definitely a happy.
Yeah. Funny? I don't really know if I have too much of a funny.
I always go, I know I laughed this week. I can't
I did.
necessarily think of a funny moment, but I know I laughed and I try and think of some. So that's
Okay, so I
okay if you
did.
can't.
Well, you saying that just triggered my memory to just earlier this evening. So I live with my mom. We have 3 corgis and 2 cats. And one of our corgis, she's the youngest. She's named Annie Oakley, and she's also known as Fat Mamacitas. And so my mom went to go like give her a vitamin or something, and she is terrible about like biting your finger. And so I guess she did that, and she just goes, "Mama," just like, and so I just started laughing because
Yeah,
she's just Mamacitas and all that stuff.
I love it. Giving pets medicine is not for
Yeah,
the weak.
no, yeah. And then my sad would be, so I'm a fanfic writer, and I just love that creativity and that creative process, but I also have horrible comparison to other people. And so I had a little breakdown and pity party for myself, and I took everything down that I'd written for this particular fandom because I'm like, it's not good, nobody likes it, I'll never be as popular as these other people, and why do I even bother, just all the stories you tell yourself and all the negative things. And so yeah, that's my little sadness. I'm still grieving that.
Yeah, no, that's a slippery slope. I do that all the time with the
Yes.
podcast. I'm like, nobody even listens, and this is just stupid, and it takes so much time. And so I relate to that a lot, and
Yeah.
that's hard, but send it my way. I'll read it.
Thank you. Well, if you're into Has Been Hotel, maybe.
Maybe. Okay, well, my sad is I interviewed for a position at my job,
Mhm.
but just like a different position in the work, and I haven't heard back from them, and I was supposed to hear on Friday, and so I just kind of reached out today and was like, any idea? And they said, oh, in a few days. So that is just my sad. It just kind of frustrating the not knowing, because I'm like, okay, do I need
Yes.
to prepare to be sad? Do I need to prepare to be happy? So
That's
it's
the
making me
worst, is
sad that I don't know.
yeah, the waiting game is just the
Yeah,
absolute worst.
yeah, totally. So
Ah,
that's my sad, but
keeping my
hopefully
fingers crossed for you.
thank you. Okay, my funny is kind of a story, but I went camping this weekend, and
Bless you.
do
I
you
am
not
not an
like
outfit.
camping?
No, I am terrified of bugs and everything. Like,
You would have hated it.
I would
The,
have hated
like,
it.
little red firebugs. Yeah,
Oh,
everywhere. Literally coating
oh
everything.
my gosh.
We like it because we camp in our car, and so we can keep things kind of
Yes.
clean, so that's helpful. But my 4-year-old nephew was there, and there was like a beetle on the table, and my sister like walked up and just was like, "Oh, what's that?" And my nephew just immediately goes, he says, "Don't kill him, he has a family." Just like out of the blue, and just like the way that he said it, he's like, "Don't kill him, he has a family." It's like,
Oh,
okay.
what a
And it's just the
sweetheart.
right, so thoughtful. And it at this point, I think it's like 11 o'clock at night.
Oh
So
my
we're all
gosh.
exhausted. The kids don't want to go to bed. And so we just like could not handle ourselves, just laughing so hard at this. It was so funny. And then my happy is that we did get to go camping, and then we still came home and we were able to get everything unpacked and still get groceries, and then we still had a fun night, and so it just made me
Excellent.
really happy that we had a productive but also fun weekend. So
Mm-hmm.
it was great.
Nice. What is the weather
Perfect.
like where you are?
So I'm in Utah, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's really hot during the day right now. We've had a little bit rain, like I was saying. When we
Mm-hmm.
were up there, we got sprinkled on a little, but we're having a lot of rain right now. But
Nice.
it's nice. It's hot, and so camping is really nice because up in the mountains, it's a little bit cooler.
Oh yeah,
Um,
the mountains.
yeah, and specifically where we were, there was a lot of tree coverage.
Oh,
So we
nice.
had a lot of shade. It made it really nice.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so the weather is great, in my opinion. Guess it depends who you ask, right?
That's very true. I'm trying to go up to Canada with all the snow and the ice and things, and
Yeah,
Kansas is way
yeah,
too hot. It's become a jungle here. So
yeah. What's it like right now?
it should be in the 90s all week. Last week was all in the hundreds, and just the humidity
Wow.
was off the chain. So it's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
weekend though was fantastic. I think the high on Saturday was maybe 67 degrees. So it was like this little taste of fall, and I can't wait
yeah.
for it.
Literally, just like a little tease, like, oh,
Yes.
maybe a little, and then back
Mm-hmm.
to 100. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Well, at least we have in Utah dry heat. We don't
Oh,
have to
yeah.
worry about the humidity.
Oh, I know. I'm like, just give it to me.
Right, right. Okay, well, I want to first get some answers for our audience. So,
Yes.
for the listeners, I had posted a question box for Tracy to answer a few of these questions. So, we'll just get started with the first one. Listener want to know, how do I start my day with a positive attitude?
So that can be really challenging. I'll admit, I struggle with that too. But one of my mentors, Cynthia Garcia, she kind of put it like NBA players or athletes, they kind of play through the game in their head, like all different scenarios. And so you already know the outcome. If you want it to be this way, then you've got to play it that way. And so if you can start your day with a mindset, clear and being like, I am going to make it what I can, and what I can't control, it's just, we're going to release it or we're going to deal with it in the moment. I think it really comes down to like starting with that intention for the day. And then as things come up, yeah, that's going to, knock you down, or you might be really triggered about something. So even just plan for that. What are you going to do in that moment? Are you going to let it ruin your day? Are you going to address it right then and there? So for me, it's like I had one day where I was driving into work and the traffic was horrible. People were awful. And I was in a mood already. And I had the thought, I was like, this was going to be a good day. And then I get off my exit, and there is a homeless guy that usually sits by the stop sign. And he like smiled at me, and I smiled back at him. And he's like, waved and everything. And as I left, I was like, man, if he can still just like smile at random people and he's out there, then I'm doing okay. Like, we can make this a good day. And just his smile was enough to turn my bad mood around. So that's kind of what I got for that
Totally.
is, yeah, just
Yeah,
having
I
your
love it.
mindset shift.
Yeah. I like how you brought up the word like control. That's something I'm definitely trying to work on, right? Like I can't control if there's traffic, but I control what music I listen to. So
Exactly.
that's been, yeah, yeah, that's been really helpful for me. Like, okay, take a breath. This is
Mhm.
frustrating.
Yes.
Yeah, and I feel like that's helped me start my day on a good note too, is like choosing a fun song right before I walk into work. So, like, my drive
Yeah.
is like 15 minutes. And so I listen to whatever, a book, a podcast, or
Mhm.
music. And then, like, right before I pull into work, I put on like a fun, kind of upbeat song. And that's helped me a lot the past couple of weeks, like, just start the day on a
Nice.
positive note.
Yes, it gets you, like, pumped up. It gets those good
Yeah.
feelings going, yeah.
Well, because I noticed I was like listening to like a book or a podcast, and not that there's anything bad with them, but, like, if they had, like, a heavier scene or, kind of like or, like, a sad song, you don't really think
Yeah.
about it, but I noticed, I'm like, I think that's really, like, starting my day on the wrong
Y
note.
yeah, yeah. There's a reason why I have, like, a certain playlist that's like, I wanna cry and be in my feelings, so this is what I do, and then I have the playlist where I'm like, I wanna get pumped up and, like, conquer the world, so
Exactly, you need both. Balance,
yes.
right? I love it. Okay, so the next question we had was, what's a good thought process to go through when you're having a bad day?
So I would kind of say and this takes, a lot of work and learning to be self-aware about yourself and what is it that's bothering you? What is it about this bad day that came up and is just sticking with you? And if you think about it, it goes back to kind of like how we're talking, about all the negative stories that I'm telling myself about writing and stuff. So, what was the event that happened where you're kind of stewing in this? Are you telling yourself a story about yourself? Are you telling yourself a story about someone that you know and care for, and they, maybe harmed you in some way? Um, it's kind of getting clear with your thoughts and thinking about your thinking and we have so many in a day, but then when they become something that triggers, our beliefs about things, that's when they can really worm themselves into our days and cause our moods to shift. So I would say if you can kind of just check in with yourself throughout the day and really ask your question like, how am I feeling? What do I need? Because a lot of people also skip, like snacks or meals or things like that. If they're having a bad day, well, it's because you're hungry. Like your body is getting cranky because you haven't fed it. So if you're
Yeah.
just checking in periodically, you can catch it before it gets, down the road, and then you're like, oh my gosh, the world's falling apart. It's like, well, he just needed those Snickers commercials. I think really have something to them. Like you're not yourself
It's
until you have a
true.
Snickers.
It's true. I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
sorry for everyone I just yelled at the last 20 minutes. I was just hungry."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah. So I would say, yeah, just do periodic check-ins of yourself. And then again, like if something happens, take a moment to just reflect on it and be like, okay, why did this bother me? What am I telling myself in this moment? And just it kind of go along that way. And then if you are having a bad day, journal about it or meditation. I'm trying to get into that. My therapist has recommended it where you just put on like some music you really like. I have really liked Lindsay Sterling. So I'll put her on and just like, you can repeat a phrase or you can just, sit there and listen to it. But yeah, just kind of sitting still with,
Yeah, totally. I really liked that phrase you said earlier, think about your thinking. I think
mhm.
that's really cool and a great reminder. I don't even know how many thoughts I have a day, right? So like just to remember to like check in with that
Mhm.
self-talk and those narratives that you're kind of writing for yourself throughout the day.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's really great reminder. Okay, and then the last question that I got from the talkers was, how do I change negative thoughts about myself?
So that, yes, that is an ongoing process for sure.
Right?
So in coaching school, I kind of learned a couple of techniques, and the great thing about these stories and these things that we tell ourselves is that we can rewrite them. So our brain is kind of like a hard drive where there's been a bunch of data saved onto it from our entire lives, and as that data gets written, it gets like really sunk into your brain. And so as things happen, it remembers, oh yeah, I reacted this way, I felt this thing, and this is what happened. This is what I told myself in the moment. And it's just that easy default. So it doesn't have to recall or do a bunch of work. And so when you try to challenge that, it gets really tough because you'll find that your brain is combative. It's like, wait, that takes a lot more processing units to try and rewrite this. So it's going to be at odds, and it takes a lot of practice. But again, if you can pause in the moment after you say, if you like tell yourself like, gosh, I'm so stupid, or, something like that, just pause and be like, are you like, what's bringing that about? Like, what's making you think this? And get really curious with yourself and say, even go back as far as say, when was another time, or when was the earliest I felt this way? Did somebody tell me that, or did I just pick that up? And you just kind of work through that and find maybe there was a certain occasion. If you don't have time to like really dig, then just figure out a different perspective in that moment. It'd be like, okay, maybe I just don't understand this thing. Like, math does not come easy to me, but I'm really great at this. So I'm not stupid. I can't really grasp this without some significant help. And that's okay. And so it's kind of flipping, like you said, the narrative to something more positive, something more non-judgmental. We're trying to get away from, those very harsh ingrained beliefs and, kind of trauma responses, and start recognizing, we're human, we're learning, we're going to get curious, we're going to start loving ourselves rather than judging ourselves, because nobody is living your life but you, so you should be able to be happy. And yeah, if you can catch yourself in the moment and try to rewrite it, then as that thought comes up in the future, be like, nope, we told ourselves this is what we're gonna say now. And your brain, yeah, it's gonna fight you constantly, but over time the data will be rewritten, and your hard
Yeah.
drive will be filled up with different things rather than those, really, really harsh thoughts.
Yeah. I think we like really naturally do that with like factual things or things that
Yes.
aren't necessarily ourself, right? Like we don't think the same things that we did when we were 12.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think unfortunately a lot of that work doesn't happen for ourselves. Like we change the way we view other things, but when it comes to ourself, like it seems to be kind of stagnant. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's a
For
good
sure.
reminder. Yeah, take a moment and look in that cycle and say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna stop now.
Yes, because yeah, if you don't catch it, you can just continue spiraling, because that's just what you, at least that's what I do. It's like a little rabbit hole that's never ending.
Yeah. Yeah, slippery slopes, man, they'll
Yes.
get you. Great. Okay, so those were all the questions that we had, kind of from the audience. So I have a few more from you for you that we can kind of go into. So I want to start kind of from the beginning, get a little backstory from you. So, what was your initial reaction when you were diagnosed with autism, and how did it kind of change some of your perspectives?
So receiving the diagnosis for me was really difficult. I went through probably the entire grieving process with it. And I saw after joining a few Facebook groups and whatnot that a lot of people were relieved, they were happy, they had like a very distinct reason why they were the way they were. And to me, I took it because I was diagnosed at age 32 and I just turned 35 last week. And I took it as, well, I've gone my whole life thinking I was this quote unquote normal. I didn't realize that other people don't struggle with this. How could I have not seen it? How did others not see it? It I saw myself as, different and less than rather than just different. And I told a coworker, I was like, is it worse to be the awkward, shy girl, or is it worse to be the autistic girl? Thinking like it's, this terrible thing. And so I did a lot of, well, therapy, continued therapy, but also did a lot of reading on my own about women and their autism, and learning so much more about them and seeing like, they're like me, you can relate to them. It's like, I really am not alone on this island, and that this is quote unquote normal for me and for others like me. And that doesn't make it worse. It just makes it different. And so reading their stories and how they have been able to, be successful and all this, like one of the books, oh gosh, I don't know what her, I think it's Chloe Hayden, and she's on some show on Netflix. I don't watch it though. I don't know, but I'm like, oh, dang, there's these famous people who are, autistic, or they're super, successful. So it's not this, thing to be ashamed about. It is just something that is, you process information in a different way. So that all helped to kind of find acceptance for myself. And there are still days where I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I didn't have this. I wish I wasn't like this. But reminding myself, to just continue the course and, continue the work, and finding ways to, kind of reduce the black and white thinking, reduce the catastrophic thinking. Coaching has really helped in that way to shift perspective or get in touch with the feelings rather than, letting them spiral and get out of hand and, all the things, and recognizing that rest is very much needed for, being overstimulated or those kinds of things. So yeah, I've come to a place of acceptance after tumultuous, this and that with it. But
Sure. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think
thank
that's a
you.
great story, and sometimes good to hear some of those other perspectives, right? Like
Yeah.
you were saying, sometimes you hear a lot of diagnoses can be really helpful for people.
Mhm.
So that's good to hear
Yeah.
on the other side. Like sometimes they're not. Sometimes
Yeah.
it can be really hard. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for sharing that. Let's see. Okay, so you get this diagnosis, right?
Mhm.
You're figuring things out. What would you say are the strategies or tools that kind of helped you with all those challenges and navigating through that time?
I would say the books for sure that I read, and
Yeah.
noticing how, they call out that very black and white thinking where you think, you know, it's one or the other. It can't be anything in between. And
Yeah.
my former boss was really great about helping me through that at work, because he had an autistic high school daughter at the time. And so I was learning a lot about myself by going to him and asking him like, hey, does she do this? What do you do with this? And I noticed like he changed the way in which he like spoke or explained things to me, which I was really appreciative of. And he would notice too when I was going into that like no, that can't be, because it has to, and then he would explain like, well, no, we can be right here in the middle. And I'm like, okay. Or he would take the time when I'm really not getting something, and he would break it down until I'm like, okay, got it, and just being really patient. And so if you can have people like that on your side to be aware and knowing how to handle, that can be super helpful as well. I would also say kind of what we talked about as well, is just being aware of your thoughts and what are you thinking, what's bringing this on. Is there a different explanation for something that happened rather than that either or sort of thinking? Is there something in between that we're missing? And just having a lot of self-compassion and curiosity rather than straight to judgment, straight to always thinking that you're wrong, and having an open mind, remaining an open mind. So if you can find like that nice little voice in your head rather, than the harsh critic, the one that can be like, well, can we look at it this way? How about that? A very gentle, like guiding voice I think that could be really helpful too.
Totally. I love that. Those are all great. We had kind of talked about like meditation and
Hmm.
journaling. Meditation sounds like a new thing we're trying.
Yeah,
Were there any other things like that that you utilized? I know you talked about like rest too and like
rest for sure.
taking
Yeah.
breaks. And if not, that's okay. I just wanted to see if there were any other
Yeah, no.
things like I can't think of the name. I feel like those kinds of things have a name,
Yeah.
but
I guess
I
they'd
can't
be
think of
like
it.
self-care, self-care
Yeah,
tips. And,
totally.
what does that mean for you? And, it can be just as simple as, I'm going to go to bed an hour earlier, or I'm going to say no to these plans, just kind of little things like that, or finding something that you really enjoy doing. Like for me, I like playing games with a friend each Friday night, just a couple hours. So yeah, just kind of indulging in what you love, getting rest, again, eating, stay hydrated, those kinds of things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Well, I think those are all really great tips, reminders, advice,
Yeah.
things like that. So I want to know, had kind of talked about, and just from looking at your platform, what are some common misconceptions? That word is so hard for me. I don't know why. Misconceptions about mental health and neurodiversity that you're kind of aiming to address.
So I think there's definitely still that stigma around mental health of people should just be able to kind of get their ish together. And nobody really has anything to back that up, I guess. Like there's no, it's just like, yeah, go figure it out sort of thing. Well, it's like, well, what are my resources? What are my,
Right.
things that I could do? And if it's gotten this bad, then is there any hope, sort of thing? Like, are you too far gone? And I would say that nobody is too far gone. And with the neurodivergent factor, it can be that very slippery slope, because you'll get hyper fixated on this one thing, and it may not be that nice hyperfixation that gives you the dopamine hit. It could be that one thing where it's like, that person said something to me that didn't feel good, and so now I'm going to think about all the things I did wrong, or why didn't I say this, why couldn't I said that better, are they still thinking about this days, like, all in the head,
Yeah.
and then your self-esteem just goes in the trash and all these things. With neurodivergent people, it's really hard to kind of get out of that spiraling and catastrophic thinking. Mental health is just, it should be treated just as your physical health. Like, there shouldn't be any shame in saying, yeah, I got a therapy session today. But there still is. Like, people think, oh, therapist, or something like that. It should just be like, yeah, I'm going to the doctor. I'm getting my blood work checked. We're just making sure everything's good. So it's frustrating to see it treated as this, like, kind of like an afterthought, because if we really did just bring in some education into our schools of just basic things revolving around your feelings and your emotions and things you can do to keep your nervous system regulated, and basic tips on trauma and how it might show up, I feel like that would make a difference in how a person sees themselves and then how they go out into the world. Because if you can get good with yourself, then that changes how you interact with others. Like, I can sense that, okay, somebody else is in this trauma response. They were triggered by something, so I'm gonna take it easy. Like, I might let them cool off for 5 seconds, and hopefully then they would also realize that, yeah, I'm not quite in a good space, so I'm gonna back off. And yeah, my time in the hospital, for when I was ready to commit suicide, like, seeing how the people were treated in there was also like, oh my gosh, we've got a long way to go for just how these people should be treated, because it felt like we were less than human in a way, and it shouldn't be like that. Like, it should have that compassion, the curiosity, and wanting to help others heal in community, rather than we shove them away, or we make them outcast, we make them feel bad for not having it together. And it just, I also think it's a lot to do with American culture, where we have just been put down to, what can you produce? What is your productivity? That's what you bring to this world. And it's like, no, I'm a whole person. Like, there's more to me than just my job, what I can do for a company, what I can do for other people, and really help people focus in on themselves, and finding that self-worth. So I have no idea if that
Yeah.
answered your question. I feel like I went kind of all around. I'm so sorry.
I think that was perfect, and I liked the word curiosity. I
Mhm,
think that word has a lot to do with,
mhm.
mental health and neurodiversity and just really remaining curious. I think we're judgmental beings. That's a
Yes. Yeah.
part of existing is, making judgments
Mhm,
and but I think just having that kind of overlay of curiosity always. So when we are making judgments, we are figuring things out, they're done in like a kind and a curious way, right?
yes.
Instead of
Yes.
like a judgmental or
Mhm.
unkind way.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
So that made me think too. What would you kind of say to someone who either recently has been diagnosed with autism themselves or knows someone with an autism diagnosis? Like,
Mhm,
how can they, say, treat the person or treat the diagnosis, or if it is for themselves, like how they can kind of work through that?
mhm. I would say for them to kind of like sit with it and recognize, okay, what are the areas that I actually do need a lot of support in, but I have been just kind of like trucking through it to, pretend that I'm okay, but I'm really not. And I think a lot of that was kind of like my year 2022, where I was just like pushing through, and, kind of my whole life was, the pressure to keep up good grades or, be this great dependent worker or, never miss a day of work unless I'm super sick, that kind of thing. It's like, well, do you have some sensory issues that maybe you weren't like you were kind of playing down, but maybe you were really like, yeah, I don't do well in this loud environment. Can I maybe get some headphones? Or I sit in my house and I have all these bright fluorescent lights. I don't really like them. But, I mean, they're okay. They're not that big of a deal. Change out your light bulbs, like make it comfortable.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say recognizing, yeah, your own needs and the areas where you've been pushing to be high performer. Is that really you, or is that something that has been like hammered into you from society or parents or things like that? And for the people who know you, how can they support you? As you kind of take off that mask, they call it, unmasking or masking for, neurodivergent. It's as you discover yourself, how can you communicate to others like, okay, well, I used to be able to do this, but I actually find it really difficult and it takes a lot out of me. So I may not be able to do that in the future. And that's something I still find hard because people expect you to just still be able to do it. And I'm like, this is not possible. Like, I also ask a lot of questions, and it's because my brain is trying to piece it together. And so rather than me just like accepting an answer because I'm like, well, I guess I need to understand this and I don't want to come off as being stupid or something like that. But my brain is still like, well, we don't quite know. So now I'm just like asking all the questions. And I know that could drive some people wild, but it's like I want to be able to perform to the level that I know I can, and I know that you want me to as well. So can you help me get there, sort of thing, you know?
Right. I have a few extra questions, but it's
Yeah.
just so that I can, do something well.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. That made me think too. This isn't a pre-written down question, so I'm like, I feel like I have to, get my thoughts together. But
Mhm.
how do people kind of approach um wanting to be helpful to someone who they may know is neurodivergent or has some kind of struggles, or because I feel like there's this balance of you don't want to be treated like you've been saying, like less than or
Yeah.
entirely different,
Mhm.
right? But you are different, right? To some
Yeah.
extent. So like you were saying, you might ask more questions, you might have these different things. So how do we kind of bridge that of, hey, I see the ways that you're different and I want to be helpful in those ways. And I don't want to make you feel, excluded. No, like how do
Yeah.
you kind of bridge that? If you
So
have any ways you I know it's a
I
big question.
yeah. I think it also comes down like, has this person disclosed their neurodivergence? Because a lot of people are also still very concerned about being open with it. And even I would say, regardless of whether they are or they aren't, asking in a way of like, hey, is there something I can help you with? Or I just want to make sure like you're good. So please let me know if there's like some additional help that you need. I would say just in making yourself a safe person for them to be themselves, they will then start seeking you out and being like, yeah, I need some help. They'll come to you and be more receptive of, kind of that exchange. That's kind of
Totally.
been my experience with
Yeah.
it, because I haven't told everybody, but the people I have, they have been more open to listening to my questions or helping me, or that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so I
Off the top of your head, what would you say are just a few qualities of a safe person?
I would say that the non-judgmental space, right? Where they can just, you can come to them, you can tell them something, and they're not just instantly going to put you in the wrong. They're not going to instantly side with you either. They're going to help you see, kind of all angles. They're going to help you through it. They are going to genuinely care about your well-being rather than them getting something from you or you getting something from them. It's really just kind of, that safe space to where you can
Totally.
feel connected to this person. You feel like you can bring your whole self to them. Um, and that can be hard to find in the workplace. It is,
Yeah.
your friends, I would hope that they would be your safe people. But I mean, you could absolutely find safe people at work too. But I would say
Yeah.
giving those people that can give you your space, and they allow you to be able to process with them,
Yeah.
they remain curious and can help you, you know.
Sure. Yeah. I always like want people to know that I'm a safe person, right? I know that like I probably always haven't been. And so I look for it all the time. I'm like, how do I tell people like I'm
I'm safe.
yeah, literally. And so I always like to ask people that question. I'm like, "Okay, what's a safe person to you? Like, how can I adopt those qualities to show other people?" So that's just why I like to ask that question because
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people, honestly, who like have good intentions and they just don't know how to kind of put themselves out there as like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I'm a safe person." Because you know what?
Mhm.
Some people aren't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that just is. Some people just aren't, and that's okay. But I just like being able to kind of show that and for other people to say like, "Hey, I'm safe. Whatever whoever you are, whatever you've
Mhm.
got, like I'm good."
Yeah, yeah. And like I had just experienced this with, my new friend, where she, for whatever reason, it was like very weird to me, like she's a safe person, because like I'm processing these really big feelings, and she's just holding this space so beautifully for me to, come in and say these things. And she was just very open and showed concern for me and my well-being, and kind of giving me options of like, you get to decide, like there's no one way or the other, and I'm going to support you with whatever you decide. So that's another big thing of supporting the person in their decision.
Yeah.
um, but also them recognizing their needs as well. Like if they can't hold this right
Mhm.
now for you, just being like, hey, like, I'm so sorry, can you give me, like, can we bring this up later? I'm feeling
Yeah.
kind of, if they can recognize in themselves, like they're having a reaction to you, if they can get regulated and then come back, then that means like they really want to like help you through this, and they don't want to be at a heightened state either. Like they don't want to be in it with you. They want to, help you through it It's
Yeah.
kind of like with coaching, it's not that you want to be both in a sinking boat. It's like you want the other person to like flip the boat over and then you like, paddle away, kind of thing.
Right.
So
Right.
you both
Right.
get to shore.
Totally. Yeah, sometimes you wanna just jump in and help. It's like, "Okay,
Yeah.
let's take a breath. Maybe
Hmm.
standing out on the beach is gonna be
Yes.
the most helpful right now."
Yeah.
Sure. I love it. Well, I think those were all amazing reminders, tips. You have a beautiful story. Thank you for being
Yeah.
vulnerable and sharing with us. That's perfect.
Thanks.
I have a couple like lighter questions to end on.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to know, we've talked a lot about, self advocating for things that you need and kind of, regulating. So, what are some like activities or hobbies that you have that help you kind of relax and just feel good?
I have really loved reading since last year. I've really picked up reading books. I also love, my Friday night video games with my friend. Right now, we are into Dragon Ball The Breakers, if anybody's on PC.
Eh?
Unfortunately, that game is dying and will probably be dead by October when the new
Oh
Dragon Ball game comes
no.
out. But, we're going to ride it out while we can. um, Also, just like a bunch of just YouTube videos from the YouTubers I watch. They're usually pretty funny and upbeat like that. I I found my attention span is lost, over the
Me
years
too.
too. So I'm like, I like little just bite size, like 15 minutes, and then next one or whatever. But
Yeah,
always keeping it kind of like the funny um, YouTube videos and just yeah.
I love it. What's a book you've read recently?
What is a book I read recently? Gosh.
Or what kind of genres or authors do you like?
So recently, I have attended Life Church for about a year now, and they just had their most recent book club in June. And so I have been tearing through those books, and they have been like really good. There's one by Christine Kane, and I forget what the title is, but it was really good because it was kind of like getting unstuck from your past, and
Mhm.
instead of consistently looking backward, how we need to kind of fix our eyes forward, and how can we shift from the past to moving forward, and how we can shed that. So that was a really good book.
Nice. Yeah, I love it. Sounds great. I definitely read a little more for entertainment purposes. Like, that sounds beautiful. I'm over
Yes.
here reading about like dragons, but
What book?
well, right now I am reading the Throne of Glass series. It's by Sarah J. Maas. Her other really popular is A Court of Thorns and Roses series.
I just heard about that on a YouTube video I was
Yeah.
watching. So, and now I
Yeah.
swear I see it everywhere.
I'm sure. I'm
Yeah.
sure. Once you like listen or say it one time, then like every
Yes.
video ever is about it. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm reading that right now. There's a few dragons in that one, but
Nice.
gosh, I'm blanking on the one book that I read that's like, oh, Fourth Wing. Fourth Wing. It's all about dragons. So
I do dig a dragon.
yeah. Well, check it out. The book is like this big. So
Oh my.
yeah, I definitely like listening as well. Kind of
Oh
more
yeah.
easier to do
Yeah.
than trying to sit down and hold still and read a book.
Yes.
Okay, well, that was everything I have for you.
Excellent.
Tell the listeners, if you don't mind, where they can find you,
Sure.
and follow along if you have a website.
Yeah, so I post on TikTok sometimes at That Autistic Coach. I am also on Facebook as Traci Hall, TraciHall. I'm on LinkedIn under the same name. I do have a website. It's for booking discovery calls if you would like to maybe have me as your coach, or I am also getting into some speaking gigs. So that is at TraciHallCoaching.com. And I am also going to be starting a podcast soon. So talking about like
Nice.
whatever I'm hyper fixated on the moment. So
Love it.
huh.
Amazing. Okay, well, I will link those below as well. So if anyone's interested and wants to check it out, you can click on the link below. I think that's it. Do you have anything else?
I don't. This was wonderful. I hope it like
Yeah.
helped. I hope I wasn't just like Talking
Oh,
around in
this is
circles and all of that.
oh, it's amazing and perfect, and I'm sure everyone will learn something.
Ah, thank
Um, and at very minimum, they get to meet a new cool person. So I think it's a
thank
win.
you.
Thanks for listening. Remember to leave a rating and review, subscribe, and come back next Thursday for a new episode. And remember, you matter and what you have to say matters. So join me here with For the Talkers.